Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second video on the presidency of the United States. Picking up where we left off, the president lives in the White House, of course, and they have a huge staff, right? Presidents have a White House staff that includes between 400 and 500 people. But they organize how they run the White House in different ways. All right, the first way is through a pyramid structure. All right, the first way is through a pyramid structure. What that means is a president's subordinates report to him through a clear channel of command headed by his chief of staff, right? The chief of staff being the right-hand person, right? The person right next to the president, not the vice president, but the person who kind of counsels the president, advises the president, those kind of things, right? So the pyramid structure, a president's subordinate report to him through a clear channel of command, usually headed by the chief of staff. A second way is through what they call a circular structure. And what this means is several of the president's assistants report directly to him or her. Okay? Several of the president's assistants report directly to him or her. All right? And then the third is an ad hoc structure where several subordinates, right, cabinet officers and committees report directly to the president on different matters. Okay? So several subordinates. From the cabinet members to committees, report directly to the president on whatever issue that is prevalent at that time. All right, so we talked about I mentioned this concept of the cabinet, right? There are people that surround and advise the president on various issues, and this is referred to as the cabinet, right? These are the heads of the 15 executive branch departments of the federal government, right? So they work within the executive branch. They don't work for Congress. They don't work for the judiciary. They work under the president. They work within the executive branch, and there are 15 different federal cabinet members, right? And the departments are state, the Department of State, the Department of the Treasury, the Department of Defense, the Department of Justice, the Department of the Interior, Agriculture, Commerce. You get what I'm saying, right? Labor, right? So these are all cabinet members. They advise the president on these different areas, on the areas of defense, justice, interior. And then summing it up is health and human services, housing and urban development, or HUD, transportation, energy, education, and veterans affairs. And the last one is Homeland Security. That's the newest cabinet position that came about after 9/11. All right, so all these cabinet members, these are people that surround the government, advise the president on these specific issues within their department. Okay, just to give you some insight, the current Secretary of State is Anthony Blinken, right? And he has a tough job right now because there's so much going on in international affairs, right? So they serve as the president's principal advisor on U.S. foreign policy, right? They conduct negotiations relating to U.S. foreign affairs. They do a lot more than that, right? So I'm going to put this website up there. You can check it out and see what the Secretary of State actually does. And it's a lot. Okay, the Secretary of State deals with foreign policy, and there's a lot going on right now, from the war with Israel and Gaza, the war in Ukraine, the war in Sudan, all these other issues that are happening right now. So Anthony Blinken has a very, very, very busy and important job advising the president on foreign policy. Another cabinet member is Secretary of the Treasury, right, Janet Yellen. The Secretary of Treasury is responsible for formulating and recommending domestic and international financial, economic, and tax policy. All right, so she's the money, with the money, Treasury money. She participates in the formulation of broad fiscal policies that have general significance for the economy, right? You always hear about the interest rate going up, the interest rate going down. You hear about unemployment. You hear about inflation. All these things happen, and the president gets advised by the Secretary of the Treasury. All right. So it's a big, important, responsible job. All right. They oversee the Treasury Department and carrying out her major law enforcement responsibilities. If you understand, the Secret Service works for the Treasury Department. Okay. So it's a big, busy job. And the third one we'll just go over is the Secretary of Defense. Another important job. Lloyd J. Austin III is the current Secretary of Defense. The Office of the Secretary of Defense is responsible for policy development, planning, resource management, and program evaluations, basically dealing with defense. All right, weapons, personnel, research, intelligence, fiscal reasons. How much money are we going to how much money are we going to send to different countries so they can arm themselves? Or what supplies are we going to give the armed services? Or what supplies are we going to send overseas? Okay, another big important job. So, and the last one, just the Secretary of Education, important for me because I'm an educator. The Secretary serves as a principal advisor to the President on policies, programs related to education. Okay, and the current Secretary of Education is Miguel Cardona. All right, so what I'm going to have you do for the quiz is one of the questions, so you know it, one of the questions will be to discuss in detail one of the 15 cabinet positions, not one that I discussed, not the 4 that I discussed, but one of the other 11, and identify who that secretary is, what his or her powers are, and your opinion regarding whether that secretary is doing a good enough job. Are they doing a good job, bad job, that kind of thing. So that's going to be on the quiz. All right, it's going to be one of the essay questions. Pick one of the cabinet members not talked about. If you pick the cabinet member and write about a cabinet member that I discussed, one of the 4 that I discussed, you're going to lose the points. All right, so from there, one of the other 11, please. All right, so another thing I'm going to talk about tonight is the presidential transition. We hear about that a lot, right? The transition of power, right? No president besides FDR, we discussed this, has ever served more than 2 terms, right? So there's always a transition of power, right? The president either is not elected again, like Trump wasn't elected again, and it was supposed to be this easy transition of power to Biden. It is what it is. Or a president may do their 2 terms, and then there's the transition to the new president and the new vice president. So we talked about this before, but no president besides FDR ever served more than 2 terms, and he'll be the last one because of the 22nd Amendment. I said 23rd before. It's the 22nd Amendment. That was my mistake. So no president in the future will be able to because of the 22nd Amendment. Be clear on this for the quiz. The 22nd was ratified in 1951, limiting the president to 2 terms in office. Not the 23rd Amendment, the 22nd Amendment. All right. Interestingly enough, 8 presidents have died in office, right? That seems, wow, we've only had 46, and 8 have died while being the president. 4 were assassinated: Lincoln, Garfield, McKinley, and John F. Kennedy. And 4 others of natural causes: William Henry Harrison, Zachary Taylor, Warren Harding, and FDR. I think Warren Harding died of a heart attack. FDR died in his 4th term. So, 8 presidents have died in office. What happens when the 8 presidents die in office? Well, the vice president then becomes president. But if the president and the vice president die together for whatever reason, then the Speaker of the House is lifted up to the presidential position. Okay, so the Speaker of the House. So that's the 3rd in the chain of command. President, Vice President, and then the Speaker of House become president if something happens to the Vice President and the President. All right, then we talk about this thing that's come up a lot lately is impeachment. We talked about it a little bit before. Impeachment is similar to an indictment in a criminal case, right? It's 2 parts. You got to be indicted, and then you have to be convicted. Okay, so impeachment has to go through the indictment process and then the conviction process. All right, so basically charges are brought against the president, and if the charges are approved by the majority of the House of Representatives, then there's an impeachment, right? But now it has to go to trial. So the House of Representatives basically does the indictment. They say there's enough evidence to charge this and to go forward on an impeachment. And then it's up to the Senate to remove the president from office, to actually convict the president, so to speak. Right? So 2/3 of the Senate must vote to convict, so to speak, in order to remove the president from office. And during this trial, what they call a trial in front of the Senate, the Chief Justice presides over it. All right, so the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court comes and presides over the hearing, over the trial, so to speak, and decides what evidence is going to be let in, what witnesses are going to testify, those kind of things. All right, so there's 2 parts. There's the indictment at the House of Representatives, and then the conviction within the Senate. Okay, there's been 3 presidents that have been impeached for a total of 4 times. All right, Andrew Johnson was impeached in 1868, Bill Clinton in 1998, and Trump twice. So 3 presidents, 4 total impeachments. Andrew Johnson, 1868, Bill Clinton, and Trump twice. None, however, were ever convicted by the Senate. Okay, they were impeached. Indictment was found by the House, went to the Senate, but none were ever convicted. And that's pretty much it for tonight. Okay, questions, comments, criticisms, let me know. And I'll see you next time. Thank you.